The Skinwalker is a deeply fascinating and mysterious figure in Native American folklore, especially associated with the Navajo tribe and neighboring tribes in the southwestern United States. The term Skinwalker is derived from the Navajo phrase Yi Nalushi, which translates to "he who walks on all fours." According to Navajo legend, a skinwalker is a witch or sorcerer who possesses the ability to transform into different animals. This transformation is believed to be achieved by wearing the skin or pelt of the desired animal. Skinwalkers are said to have the power to assume the forms of various creatures, such as wolves, coyotes, bears, owls, or crows. Skinwalkers are considered to be deeply malevolent and capable of inflicting harm on others. They are believed to use their powers for dark purposes, such as causing illness, death, or misfortune. It is said that they can also manipulate people's minds and emotions and create confusion, and sow discomfort and fear within communities. The Skinwalker legend emphasizes the importance of respecting the natural order and the balance between humans and nature. Navajo tradition holds that individuals who engage in witchcraft or sorcery for malicious purposes, violate cultural taboos, or seek to gain supernatural powers through forbidden means can become skinwalkers. And now that you know a little bit about these malicious creatures, let's delve into some Navajo skinwalker legends. As the night draped its inky veil over the desolate wilderness, a chilling breeze whispered through the ancient trees, carrying with it an air of foreboding. Deep within the heart of a remote and untamed landscape, where the boundaries between the natural and supernatural blurred, a tale of terror unfolded, a harrowing encounter with the enigmatic and malevolent entity known as the Skinwalker. Nestled amidst the sprawling expanse of a forgotten forest, a small, isolated community clung to an existence steeped in tales of the bizarre and the unexplained. Whispers of ancient legends echoed through the minds of its inhabitants, their senses heightened by generations of eerie encounters. It was a place where the ordinary took on a sinister semblance, where shadows danced with unseen entities, and ordinary folk walked a tightrope between the realms of mundane reality and the unknown. In the heart of this eerie enclave, a young man by the name of Ethan found himself inexorably drawn into a nightmarish web of supernatural intrigue. His curiosity, like a moth to a flame, led him deeper into the heart of the secrets that lay hidden in the wilderness. Armed with nothing more than his relentless determination to uncover the truth, Ethan embarked on a journey that would forever alter his perception of the world. As the moon cast its ethereal glow upon the land, Ethan ventured into the ancient woods, where gnarled branches clawed at the sky, their twisted forms resembling skeletal fingers beckoning him forward. Each step he took resonated with a primal fear, the forest seemingly alive with a malevolence that sent shivers coursing through his veins. The silence was deafening, save for the rustling of unseen creatures and the distant howl of a lone wolf, its mournful cry carrying a warning that went unheeded. Night after night, Ethan's footsteps echoed through the dense undergrowth, his senses attuned to the subtle shift in the atmosphere. Whispers reached his ears, disembodied voices that taunted and teased, their chilling words laced with a malefic intent. Shadows danced on the periphery of his vision, fleeting glimpses of something sinister and otherworldly. But it was on a moonless night, when the stars themselves seemed to cower behind a shroud of blackness, that Ethan's darkest fears were realized. A figure emerged from the depths of the forest, its form twisted and distorted, a grotesque mockery of humanity. Its eyes, glimmering with an unnerving luminescence, locked into Ethan's trembling frame, freezing him in a paralyzing grip of terror. It was a Skinwalker, the embodiment of ancient evil, capable of assuming the forms of man and beast at will. As the Skinwalker advanced, Ethan's heart pounded in his chest, his every instinct screaming at him to flee. But his legs refused to obey, rooted to the spot as if held captive by an invisible force. Panic consumed him, his mind a whirlwind of dread and desperation. What followed was a nightmarish dance between predator and prey, as Ethan fought to escape the clutches of the Skinwalker. Its bone-chilling cries echoed through the night, mingling with Ethan's anguished pleas for salvation. The very fabric of reality seemed to fray, as though the boundaries between the physical and the supernatural were disintegrating. Whether by sheer luck or an otherworldly intervention, Ethan managed to break free from the clutches of the Skinwalker, his body battered and his spirit shattered. Gasping for breath, he stumbled out of the forest, his mind ablaze with the horrors that he had witnessed. In the days that followed, Ethan remained plagued by the lingering presence of the malevolent entity. Its haunting visage invaded his dreams, its chilling whispers echoing through his waking hours. He was forever changed, burdened with a knowledge that transcended the realm of normalcy, a knowledge that perhaps some ancient forces were not meant to be awakened, that some secrets were best left buried in the depths of the earth. Haunted by the encounter, Ethan became a recluse, his once vibrant spirit overshadowed by a paralyzing fear. The tale of the Skinwalker spread like wildfire through the community, reinforcing its reputation as a place where darkness reigned supreme. Within the dense, ominous forests of the Navajo lands, where the whispers of the ancient spirits lingered and the very air seemed heavy with a nameless dread, an ancient legend was whispered among the people, a tale that chilled the blood and sent shivers down the spines of all who heard it. It was the tale of the Skinwalker. As twilight descended upon the desolate landscapes, casting long shadows upon the barren earth, the Navajo people retreated to their homes, seeking solace and safety behind locked doors. For they knew that when darkness reigned supreme, the Skinwalker would awaken from its slumber and prowl the night, hungry for the thrill of terror and the taste of human flesh. The Skinwalker was not merely a man or beast, but a malevolent entity that possessed the power to transform, to shapeshift at will. It was said that these ancient sorcerers, corrupted by dark forces, had delved into the forbidden rituals and sacrilege, invoking the spirits of darkness to grant them unimaginable power. In doing so, they forfeited their humanity, forever condemned to become the very embodiment of terror itself. It was whispered that the Skinwalker possessed an insatiable appetite for fear, stalking its prey with stealth and cunning. Its eyes glowed like fiery coals, piercing the night with an ominous, otherworldly gaze. It moved with an unnatural swiftness, its body contorting and shifting as it weaved through the undergrowth, taking on the form of a wolf or a coyote or even a monstrous amalgamation of both. The Skinwalker's presence was heralded by a chorus of eerie howls that echoed through the night, sending chills down the spines of those unfortunate enough to hear them. It was said that those who encountered the creature would be plagued by a sense of impending doom, a feeling that they were being hunted, their every move watched by the malevolent eyes of the Skinwalker. The legend held that the Skinwalker could infiltrate communities, disguising itself as one of its victims, mimicking their voice and appearance to sow confusion and discord. It would exploit the trust of family and friends, preying upon their deepest fears and weaknesses until it had driven them to the brink of madness. And when its hunger grew insatiable, it would reveal its true form, unleashing a nightmarish onslaught of terror upon the unsuspecting. The Navajo people, wise in their ancient traditions, knew that the only protection against the Skinwalker was to remain vigilant and steadfast. They adorned their homes with sacred symbols and performed intricate rituals, invoking the spirits of their ancestors for guidance and protection. They heeded the warnings of their elders and respected the boundaries of ancient burial grounds, for it was believed that the spirits of the departed held the power to repel the Skinwalker. But even with their precautions, the people knew that the Skinwalker lurked in the shadows, an ever-present threat that defied comprehension. They shared their stories in hushed whispers, passing down the legend from generation to generation, a chilling reminder of the darkness that dwelled within the human soul. So as the moon rose high in the ink-black sky, and the wind carried the faint echoes of haunting howls, the people huddled together, their hearts heavy with trepidation. For in the depths of the Navajo lands, the legend of the Skinwalker remained alive. In the heart of the sprawling wilderness, a tale of terror was about to unfold, a chilling encounter with the enigmatic and dreaded Skinwalker. Deep within the Navajo territory, where ancient legends whispered secrets carried through generations, a small community nestled in the embrace of the land. A hushed unease had settled upon its inhabitants, for they were well aware of the dark folklore that permeated their very existence. Tales of skinwalkers, shape-shifting beings with insatiable hunger for human flesh, had been woven into the fabric of their lives, leaving an indelible mark on their collective psyche. One fateful evening, as twilight relinquished its hold to the encroaching night, a lone traveler found himself drawn towards the mystique of the Navajo lands. Ignoring the ominous warnings and the superstitious whispers that reverberated through the air, he ventured forth with an insatiable curiosity, unaware of the harrowing ordeal that awaited him. The traveler, his footsteps echoing softly against the barren earth, traversed the desolate terrain with a sense of trepidation. The haunting call of distant coyotes sent shivers down his spine, an eerie symphony that accompanied his solitary journey. The oppressive darkness seemed to thicken around him, obscuring his path and distorting his senses. As he forged ahead, a peculiar sensation gnawed at his soul, a feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes peering through the nocturnal veil. It was an invisible presence, palpable yet intangible, that stirred a primal fear deep within his soul. Suddenly, the wind whispered through the ancient juniper trees, carrying with it an otherworldly melody. The mournful song, fulfilled with sorrow and malice, sent a chill coursing through his veins. He quickened his pace, his rhythmic beat of his heart an urgent reminder of his vulnerability. But his desperate efforts to escape were in vain, for the very land itself seemed to conspire against him. An unnerving symphony of whispers, disembodied voices that spoke in tongues unknown and infiltrated his mind, eroding his sanity with each passing moment. It was then, at the precipice of despair, that the traveler caught a glimpse of a figure, a mere silhouette against the starless sky. Unearthly and distorted, it stood motionless, an abomination defying the laws of nature. Its eyes glowed with an unholy fire, fixated upon its prey with a hunger unquenchable. A primal instinct screamed within the traveler's soul, urging him to flee, to escape the clutches of this malevolent entity. But his body betrayed him, paralyzed by a potent cocktail of terror and morbid fascination. He was a mere pawn in a twisted game, trapped in the crosshairs of an ancient evil that defied comprehension. In that moment, the Skinwalker, with a grace that defied its grotesque appearance, began to close the distance between them. A chilling breeze swept through the desolate landscape, carrying with it the stench of decay and a whispered promise of doom. The traveler's heart pounded in his chest, its frantic rhythm a desperate plea for salvation. But salvation seemed an impossible dream, for he had stumbled into the domain of the Skinwalker, a realm where nightmares roamed free and the boundary between reality and nightmares blurred. With each agonizing step, the Skinwalker transformed before his eyes, its grotesque features contorting into a monstrous display of supernatural power. Its limbs elongated, joints twisting unnaturally, as if mocking the very concept of human anatomy. Its form seemed to shift and writhe as if it were a creature caught between the worlds, a twisted amalgamation of man and beast. The traveler's mind reeled, his senses overwhelmed by the sheer malevolence emanating from the creature. Time itself seemed to slow, stretching into an eternity of torment as the Skinwalker closed in, its eyes burning like twin orbs of a malevolent flame. It radiated an aura of ancient malignancy, a force that defied the passage of time and feasted upon the souls of countless victims. A guttural growl escaped the twisted lips of the Skinwalker, a sound that reverberated through the traveler's very core. It was a chilling symphony of darkness, a prelude to the imminent horror that awaited him. He could feel the weight of its gaze upon him, an unyielding pressure that threatened to crush his spirit. Desperation flooded his veins as he summoned the last vestiges of his strength. With a surge of adrenaline, he broke free from the paralysis that held him captive, his legs propelling him forward in a desperate bid for survival. The Skinwalker pursued, its movements unnaturally swift and silent, as if gliding effortlessly over the unforgiven terrain. But no matter how fast the traveler ran, he could never escape the feeling of being hunted, of being relentlessly pursued by an entity that existed beyond the realm of mortal comprehension. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp and twist, transforming the once familiar landscape into an otherworldly labyrinth of terror. As the traveler's stamina waned, his spirit teetering on the cliff of surrender, a glimmer of hope flickered in the distance. A faint light emerged from the darkness, an ancient ceremonial fire burning in the heart of a forgotten clearing. With a surge of desperate determination, he veered toward the sanctuary, his lungs burning with exertion. The Skinwalker, sensing its prey slipping from its grasp, unleashed a blood-crawling howl, a primal cry that echoed through the night, chilling the very marrow of the traveler's bones. But he pressed on, his trembling legs carrying him toward the flickering flames that offered a sliver of respite from the encroaching darkness. As the traveler stumbled into the clearing, he collapsed onto the sacred ground, his body quivering with exhaustion and relief. The Skinwalker, bound by ancient forces that barred its entry, circled the perimeter, its eyes burning with an insatiable hunger. In the eerie glow of the fire, the traveler's gaze met the piercing gaze of the Skinwalker one last time, a silent acknowledgement of the horrors that they had both endured. For in that moment, he understood the true nature of his encounter, a battle between light and darkness, between the frailty of humanity and the shadowy realm of the supernatural. In the dying embers of a New Mexico sundown, where the rough sandstone ridges of the desert merge with the charcoal canvas of the night sky, there's a hush that falls over the land. A silence that's not quite silent, punctuated by the occasional whisper of the wind as it ghosted through the gnarled arms of the Joshua trees, and the distant mournful cry of a lone coyote. The day's brutal heat gradually gave way to the chilling embrace of the desert night, causing the old wooden boards of a solitary, weather-beaten ranch house to creak and groan in protest. This was an isolated place, miles from the nearest town, where the only signs of life were the flickering lights in the windows of the house and the rusted skeleton of a pickup truck that had seen better days. Inside the house was old man Eli, huddled over a crackling radio, the soft voices and static his only company in the vast, unforgiven wilderness. His eyes, hardened by years of exposure to the elements and countless sleepless nights, scanned the darkness outside his window, with a weary yet vigilant gaze. The tales of the elders echoed in his mind, tales of a sinister, shape-shifting entity that roamed the desert under the cloak of darkness, the Skinwalker. He had always dismissed them as mere legends, stories conjured up to keep the children from wandering off into the desert. But recently, things had changed. His livestock had started disappearing one by one with no logical explanation. Strange footprints were found around his property, footprints that looked almost human but not quite right. And then there were the noises, eerie, guttural howls that seemed to come from all directions, chilling him to his very core. As he leaned back in his chair, his heart pounded heavily in his chest, the rhythmic thumping almost in sync with the ticking of the old clock on the wall. He knew that tonight was different. The air was colder, the silence deeper, the darkness outside almost tangible. And his instinct screamed at him that he was no longer alone, that he was being watched, hunted. The line between legend and reality had begun to blur, and Eli prepared himself for the terrifying reality that he was about to become face to face with the chilling legend of the Skinwalker. As the night grew deeper, so did Eli's sense of unease. He found himself drawn to the window, his eyes straining to penetrate the inky blackness beyond. The only sound was the steady tick of the old clock on the wall, each tick a reminder of the creeping sounds that pulled him closer to an encounter that he had spent a lifetime trying to dismiss as mere folklore. And suddenly, the intermittent crackling from the radio ceased, plunging the room into a silence that was almost deafening. The hair on the back of Eli's neck stood on end, his skin prickling as though charged with static. His fingers tightened around the worn wooden handle of his shotgun, and his faded reflection staring back at him from the polished steel barrel. The silence was then broken by a soft scratching sound at the door. Eli froze. His breath hitched in his throat as the sound grew louder, more frantic. It was an oddly human noise, but marred with a raspy, animalistic quality that turned his blood to ice. He slowly rose from his chair, his old bones protesting, and moved towards the door. His heart pounding in his chest, Eli pressed his eye against the peephole. The sight that greeted him was as baffling as it was terrifying. Standing at the door was a figure that seemed to shimmer and warp under the moonlight. It was as if though the figure was caught between forms, its body a grotesque blend of man and beast. Its eyes, however, were the most disturbing feature, glowing with an unnatural light. They bore into him with a chilling intelligence and malevolence. Just as Eli stepped back from the door, the radio suddenly burst back to life. The soft voices were replaced with a frenzied static, pierced intermittently by an inhumanly guttural growl that seemed to echo around the room. The entity outside mirrored the sound, a deep bone-rattling noise that filled the air with a complete dread. Eli stood, frozen in creeping terror, as the figure began to circle the house. He could hear it moving, the gravel crunching under its weight and the wooden walls of the house groaning under its touch. He knew then with a dreadful certainty that he wasn't dealing with a common beast. This was something ancient, something dark, and something that defied the natural laws of the world as he knew it. As the night dragged on, so did Eli's encounter with the Skinwalker. Every creak of the house and every gust of wind, every shadow dancing in the moonlight became a source of terror. Yet, as the first rays of dawn began to peek over the horizon, the entity retreated, leaving Eli in the chilling aftermath of the encounter. His home was no longer a refuge, but a battleground, a frontier between the world of men and the realm of nightmares. The Skinwalker no longer a legend, but a horrifying reality, forever etched into Eli's existence. And as the sun began to rise, casting long, trembling shadows across the desert, Eli found himself rooted to the spot, the chilling memories of the night still etched into his mind. The house, once a symbol of solace, now felt tainted, its sanctity violated by the entity that had prowled its perimeter. The familiar, comforting sounds of dawn were drowned out by the echo of the Skinwalker's guttural howls, a haunting reminder of the terror that he had endured. He moved slowly through the house, the creaking floorboards under his feet seeming to echo the rhythm of his pounding heart. Each room was shrouded in an eerie silence, the air heavy with an unseen presence that made his skin crawl. He could still feel the Skinwalker's penetrating gaze, as if it had imprinted onto him, a spectral stalker in the daylight. His own reflection in the dusty old mirror seemed foreign, his eyes wary and haunted. Outside, the landscape was transformed. The desert, usually a canvas of golden sand and sun-bleached rocks, now seemed like a painted backdrop to a nightmarish stage. The footprints around his property had multiplied, their inhuman shape a stark contrast against the sandy soil. They circled the house, a taunting visible proof of the Skinwalker's nocturnal visit. Venturing further, Eli found his livestock pen empty. A heavy dread settled in his stomach as he discovered the remnants of his animals, their bodies mutilated in ways that defied natural predation. The sight was grotesque, a macabre testament to the Skinwalker's malevolence. The stench of death lingered in the air, a nauseating reminder of the creature's insatiable hunger. As Eli retreated back to the house, the wind picked up, carrying with it a low, mournful howl. It echoed across the vast expanse of the desert, a spectral call that sent a shiver down his spine. It was as if the Skinwalker was still there, its presence woven into the very fabric of the desert, waiting for the cloak of darkness to fall once again. In the blistering heat of the day, Eli found no respite. The sun, usually a beacon of life and warmth, now cast long, eerie shadows that danced and flickered like ghostly apparitions. Each gust of wind, each rustle of the desert foliage seemed to carry with it a whispered threat, a chilling promise that the Skinwalker would return. As the day slowly bled into the night once again, Eli could only wait, his world forever scarred by the eerie reality of his encounter with the Skinwalker. As the sun descended and the desert was once again swallowed by the night, Eli found himself standing at the threshold of his door. The shotgun felt heavy in his hands, and its cold still a stark contrast to the warmth of the dying daylight. The desert outside was a swirling canvas of darkness, the silhouettes of the Joshua trees dancing like specters in the moonlight. Somewhere in that darkness, he knew the Skinwalker was waiting. His home, once a bastion of security, had become a fortress under siege. Every creak of the house, every whisper of the wind against the windows felt like a harbinger of the terror that was to come. The night outstretched out before him, a vast abyss of uncertainty. Despite the chilling dread that gripped him, Eli felt a hardening resolve. He was a man of the desert, his spirit as rugged and enduring as the landscape that had been his home for decades. This was his land, his home, and he would not be driven away by the terror that stalked him in the night. With renewed determination, he set out about fortifying his home. Windows were boarded up, doors were barricaded, and every potential entrance meticulously secured. His old radio, now a tool of forewarning, crackled softly in the background. The house, once echoing with the eerie silence of anticipation, was now filled with the sounds of resonance. As the hours passed, the desert outside remained silent. It was as if the land itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. Eli, fortified within his home, waited too. Each tick of the old clock on the wall was a countdown, each passing minute a step closer to the face-off with the sinister entity. Finally, in the darkest hour of the night, it came. A low, guttural howl echoed across the desert, more chilling and inhumane than any sound that Eli had ever heard. The Skinwalker had returned, but this time, Eli was ready. The encounter that followed was a test of wills. The Skinwalker, with its malevolent intelligence and inhuman abilities against Eli, with his unwavering resolve in the protective fortress of his home. It was a long, grueling night, filled with terror and tension. However, as the first rays of dawn began to spill across the desert, the entity retreated, leaving Eli once more. The encounter had left its mark, a chilling memory that would forever haunt Eli. But he had faced the terror of the night and faced the nightmare that had prowled his home, and he had endured. The sun rose on a new day, and its light washing away the shadows of the night. The desert, once a stage for his terrifying encounter, was once again just a vast expanse of sand and sky. Eli, standing at the threshold of his home, watched the sunrise with a weary smile. He had faced the legend of the Skinwalker and lived to tell the tale. His home, his land, was his once more. The desert was silent, the Skinwalker gone, and Eli had survived the longest night of his life. But he knew with the chilling certainty that he would never forget the terror of the Skinwalker, a horrifying reality that had forever changed his existence. Skinwalker legends are part of Native American folklore, featuring shape-shifting beings with supernatural powers. They represent a balance between good and evil. While some people dismiss these tales as superstition, many even claim to have encountered skinwalkers firsthand. They challenge us to explore the boundaries of reality and the hidden shadows within our minds. The Skinwalker is a haunting and enigmatic figure that invites us to question the unknown. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Tales Told in the Dark. So please leave a comment and share galore if you liked it. And thank you all for watching.